The training hall of the Galactic Coalition's military academy fell silent as Commander Vexthor raised his primary striking appendage. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lighting, and his compound eyes reflected nothing but contempt as he looked down at the human instructor. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood barely 5.5 feet tall, her frame appearing almost fragile compared to the 7-foot Krillian warrior. She wore the standard Coalition training uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her expression calm and professional. "This," Vexthor announced to the assembled cadets from 17 different species, "is what the Coalition considers qualified to train us." His translator device rendered his clicking speech into common tongue, but the disdain needed no translation. "A soft-skinned biped from a backwater world that only joined us 3 cycles ago?" The cadets shifted uncomfortably. Humans were still a novelty in the Coalition, their planet having achieved faster-than-light travel remarkably late compared to most spacefaring species. The Krillians, by contrast, had been founding members, their warrior culture legendary across the galaxy. Sarah didn't respond. She simply moved to the center of the sparring circle, her movements fluid and controlled. The Academy's superintendent had warned her about Vexthor. The Krillian officer had been vocal about his opposition to humans serving in any military capacity, calling them weak, slow, and evolutionarily inferior. "Perhaps a demonstration," Vexthor continued, stepping into the circle uninvited, "to show these cadets what happens when the Coalition lowers its standards." The attack came without warning, a violation of every protocol. Vexthor's strike was designed to humiliate, not harm. A backhanded blow meant to send her stumbling, to make her look foolish in front of the recruits. It was the kind of strike that said, "You don't belong here." But Sarah's hand moved faster. She caught his wrist mid-strike, her fingers wrapping around the chitinous limb with surprising strength. Vexthor's momentum stopped dead, and for a heartbeat, confusion flickered across his alien features. Then Sarah smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile or a mocking one. It was the patient smile of a teacher who had just found a particularly stubborn student. The kind of expression that had graced the faces of martial artists, warriors, and survivors throughout human history. "Next lesson?" she asked quietly. Vexthor tried to pull back, but her grip was iron. The cadets leaned forward, sensing something unprecedented about to unfold. The Krillian officer had 4 limbs and outweighed her by at least 80 pounds. By every physical metric, he should have been dominant. What happened next lasted perhaps 4 seconds. Sarah stepped inside his reach, her movement economical and precise. She redirected his trapped arm, using his own strength against him, and swept his legs with a technique that had been refined on Earth for centuries. The massive Krillian went down hard, the impact reverberating through the training hall floor. Before he could recover, Sarah had transitioned, controlling his limb with a joint lock that leveraged human understanding of anatomy, or in this case, xenobiology, that the Coalition's combat manuals had never considered. Vexthor thrashed once, then went still. Pain receptors, it turned out, were remarkably similar across species. The pressure Sarah applied was precise, calculated, and absolutely effective. "Lesson 1, Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly in the silence. She didn't raise her tone. She didn't need to. Never underestimate an opponent based on appearance. Humans didn't evolve with natural armor or enhanced strength. We evolved something else." She released him and stood, offering her hand to help him up. Vexthor stared at it for a long moment, his pride clearly warring with his shock. Finally, he ignored the gesture and rose on his own, his body language radiating humiliation. "You got lucky," he hissed. "Did I?" Sarah turned to face the cadets. Human military doctrine is built on centuries of fighting opponents who were bigger, stronger, or better armed. We learned to adapt, to think, to use leverage, psychology, and terrain. We learned that victory isn't about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest, the most prepared, and the most willing to do what's necessary. A young Delphinian cadet, her tentacles quivering with excitement, raised an appendage. "Instructor Chen, how did you move so fast?" "Humans are supposed to be slow compared to most Coalition species." Sarah smiled again. "Reaction time isn't just about nerve conductivity. It's about pattern recognition and training. I saw Commander Vexthor's stance, his weight distribution, the angle of his shoulders. I brain processed those patterns before he even moved. We call it reading an opponent. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in agitation. Parlor tricks. In real combat? In real combat, Sarah interrupted, her tone hardening slightly. You'd be dead. That strike you through? It was telegraphed and emotionally motivated. You wanted to humiliate me, which meant you weren't thinking tactically. I could have broken your joint, struck your neural cluster, or transitioned to a dozen different finishing positions. I chose restraint because this is a training hall, not a battlefield. She walked slowly around the circle, meeting the eyes of each cadet. Every species in this room has advantages. Krillians have armor and strength. Delphinians have toxin immunity and multidirectional awareness. Humans, we have adaptability. We have endurance. We have the ability to thrive in environments that would kill most of you, and to bond with species that have nothing in common with us. We have imagination. Sarah stopped and turned back to Vexthor. And we have something else, Commander. We have the accumulated knowledge of hundreds of martial traditions, thousands of years of warfare, and the scars of almost destroying ourselves multiple times. We learned to fight smart because we had to. The Krillian officer stood rigidly, his entire posture screaming wounded pride. But his eyes, those complex, multifaceted eyes, showed something else now. Calculation, respect, grudging perhaps, but present nonetheless. Your species, he said slowly, is more dangerous than our intelligence reports suggested. No, Sarah corrected gently. We're exactly as dangerous as we need to be. We didn't join the coalition to conquer or dominate. We joined because we finally learned the most important lesson of all. She gestured to the assembled cadets, that we're stronger together than apart. That diversity isn't weakness, it's the greatest tactical advantage any alliance can have. She turned to address the full class. Tomorrow we'll cover Coalition Integrated Combat Doctrine. For tonight, I want you all to pair up with someone from a different species and discuss your homeworld's martial traditions. Learn from each other, because the enemy we'll face out there won't care about our differences. They'll only see Coalition defenders. As the cadets began to disperse, chattering excitedly, Vexthor remained in the circle. Sarah met his gaze evenly. Commander, she said quietly, if you'd like to discuss training methodologies or schedule a proper sparring session, my office hours are posted. We could both learn something. For a long moment, Vexthor said nothing. Then slowly, his mandibles spread in what passed for a Krillian smile. Perhaps I misjudged, Lieutenant Chen. Perhaps humans do have something to teach the Coalition after all. Sarah nodded. We all do, Commander. That's the point. As she left the training hall, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The road ahead would be long, and prejudices wouldn't disappear overnight. But today, at least, she'd struck a blow for every human who would follow her into the stars. And she'd done it the human way, with skill, preparation, and just enough audacity to make people pay attention.